Wexic planned an incredible game, an incredible series, and then Ezim and Heste also had an incredible series when we watched them yesterday as well. And I feel like Ornn might be a pretty big priority pick for these two teams, because both these teams, Heste and also Wexic, have shown how strong they can be on Ornn supports. With also the Nautilus and the Rakan being banned away, I wouldn't be surprised if the support priority is going to be key here for these two teams. But it looks like Baluz wants to pick up that Lee Sin, that aggressive jungler, which Jemmy didn't do too well in the last game, but that does leave open that Camille and potentially the Galio to follow up as well. Or the Ornn priority. There we go.
There we go. You did say it. You, the Nostradamus of the cast is Stu, and we saw that Wexic gets to pick up his Ornn rather than Heste's as well. But it's going to be interesting to see what Heste's go for, because obviously the Rakan's been taken off the table there. But there is some big picks. We saw the Braum come through, if I'm not mistaken, on the side of 4JV yesterday, and we did see the Renekton come through as well. So we have the Baron lane, we have the jungler, but that Renekton could flex down into mid if the mid lane is going to be the likes of an assassin as well. So again, not the most flexible of picks, but it could be flexed into that mid lane.
You'll have to wait and see how they want to round out this first part of the draft with the jungler and the top laner already picked up. Kai'Sa seems to be the option here, or maybe Xayah as well. Two very strong AD carries at the moment in this current meta, but it is going to be Kai'Sa for Ezim in the bot lane. We saw the Kai'Sa pop off yesterday for Ezim, and also the Xayah as well. And Viego is going to be the pickup here, and I feel like Jemmy, again, didn't have a crazy game when they won on Viego. He wasn't really the difference maker. It was definitely this Ornn, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can maybe pull out of his strings in this next series, because this final is going to be super important for these two teams.
Absolutely, and they don't get an extended try at trying to swing back the pendulum of winning, because it is still just a best of 3. So whoever's the first to get to 2 wins is going to win the overall grand final of this tournament. And we see those last little bans come through. The Galio gets hit with the hacks and the Leona as well. So again, 4 out of 5 of the bans are support bans, but like Hester said on Twitter, he took to Twitter to say, hey, keep them coming, I've got plenty more in the barrel. And it's going to be interesting to see what to go for on the side of 4JV. Is it going to be another mid lane pick? Is it going to be like the Akali or a ADC pick to try and bring down the pool of that? But no, it's the Vladimir.
Yeah, you're definitely going down the tiers with the support picks right now. I think with the likes of Galio being banned, Rakan as well, and also Nautilus, I would assume that Heste is probably going to pick up Alistar. I would assume. We'll have to wait and see. I think Alistar is probably the next best option in terms of the support picks. But with Zoe and Vladimir banned away, we have to see if the mid lane gets picked. No, it's Zeri that gets picked in this bot lane for now. Now the side of 4J1V, which is 4 old, 1 young, is going to be able to round out this roster with something good. They already have really good early game with the Lee Sin and the Renekton. The Braum could be a pretty good pickup as well, as there is a lot of melee champions. But Set, the playmaking, I mean, he was never going to pick Braum. Braum doesn't seem like a Heste sort of champion, to be honest with you. He wants to make the plays. He wants to be the first one to engage. And that's exactly what Set brings to the table.
Yep, Set bringing that to the table, with the Showmaker and stuff of that collar. But are we going to see the Syndra come through? We saw the Battle of the Balls last time, and are we going to see it this time around as well? Is the Ahri going to come through on the side of the Cordoba? I don't think it will, as we saw quite a few different pickups for Cordoba on their side, and they're going to go for potentially the Jax, which is going to flex the Camille down to mid lane.
Yeah, it looks like Camille mid lane, Jax in that top lane, Viego jungle, and Zeri Ornn in the bot lanes. Like you said, a bit of flexibility there. Camille's going to struggle a little bit, though, I feel like, against this Syndra. That melee versus range matchup is definitely going to be a little bit difficult. However, the Camille, if she can get onto the Syndra, does have the opportunity to get that passive shield and passive magic shield to be able to stop a lot of the incoming damage from Syndra, which can definitely help her out. But definitely going to have to play very passive in this one. Again, a lot of melee champions on both sides as well. And I think it's really going to be, again, I've kind of mentioned it already, but down to these AD carries. They're so important in these games because all these bruisers and all these melee champions are all just going to be battling it out and just throwing punches towards each other. But when the Kaiser and the Zeri are going to join the fight, that's really where the kicks come in. That's where the low blows come in and everything else as well. That's where the big damage comes in for both of these teams. So super excited for this one to get started. Obviously, we have to wait a few minutes, but it's fine. We can build up the action as it gets started.
Yeah, we've seen a few of the mixed match of both of the game day 1 and day 2 drafts. Like we see the likes of the Syndra come through, the Renekton, Kaiser, Set, all were showing themselves in day 1, and then you got the likes of the Viego, Zeri coming through, the Lee Sin as well. So again, just a little bit of a difference here. So we are getting a bit more spice for what we wanted in day 1, but it's not the spiciest. I feel like there could have been a little bit more of a switcheroo in these team comps, but it seems like the teams are just doing what's best for themselves here, because I mean, this is the final match where they either take it all or just leave it all on the table, because whoever wins this does get the obviously higher prize pool as well. So you are going to be picking some of those champions, those necessary champions that are going to make that victory a little bit easier for you, because both of these teams have been fantastic throughout the entire tournament. Obviously, we didn't really give Cordoba much awareness or coverage yesterday, whereas 4JV we saw as well yesterday, and obviously they played fantastically against Requiem. So both mega props to these teams. No matter what happens in this best of 5, they are both the best of these regions and countries within this Rift Legends battle off. And yeah, I think it's just going to be down to how this now early game matches up, because yesterday we saw the strong early game against a weak early game in every match.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to wait and see how this bot lane battle is going to come out. Again, I really feel like the plays are really going to happen around this bot lane, and both the junglers are going to definitely look towards this bottom side of the map to try and get these bot laners ahead. Can the likes of Ezame and Set be able to, you know, get the potential, get the extra bit of carry in there, and can they actually shut down this Ornn as well at the same time? Because we saw how much of a carry Wexit was on the Ornn in game number 1 in the last series, and if he could do the same again, then he can definitely be the carry to take the first game here for Spain. I think overall, I would have to put my money on probably France in general in this series. I think both of these rosters have really strong faces for them. They have really strong talents as well, names that have been around for so long. I feel like France just have the upper edge. I think the support jungle can definitely look to try and carry and try and do a lot of work against the likes of Jemmy and Wexit, who maybe don't have as much experience as the likes of Heste and Baluz, but we'll have to wait and find out. Anything can happen. It is a grand final. It is the best of 3. It is a lot on the line as well, because whoever wins comes back next weekend and plays again next weekend. So super exciting for these two teams if they can try and qualify next weekend as well and try and play for an even bigger prize pool.
Yeah, like you say, the French side does seem like a bit of an aggressive team comp, so that's what they have going for them. Whether that Cordoba is actually going to allow them to execute that is all going to be down to their players' skill, because they've got the likes of the timed champions like Jax that you're going to be wanting to leap in and make sure that you counter-strike the correct champion, like the likes of the Lee Sin, maybe trying to negate the Syndra to run the Syndra down and the Kaiser very early on, because then that's where you start to negate a lot of the damage on the side of 4JV. But then they also have the Camille as well with the Hextech Ultimatum, being able to CC over the walls as well. So I feel like there's a lot of timed mechanics on the side of Cordoba. So even though we have, it's kind of like the aggression meets kind of, it's like the master of Wuju style, even though Wukong is not within here, but it's kind of just trying to perfect those timings on the Camille and the Jax that I think's really going to make the difference here on Cordoba's draft. But then also it's pretty much complemented with that Ornn knock-up, so we could kind of see a huge disruption for some massive engages from 4JV.
And it sounds like we are getting ready to go into game. I know there's a lot of Spanish fans in the chat and also a lot of French fans as well. So make sure you get behind your teams, get behind your countries as well. I want to see the chat spammed with the flags, spammed with all the chants and everything as well. This is such a big final, I think, for these two countries. I mean, they definitely want the bragging rights in the end. France want to say they're the best in Wild Rift. Spain want to say they're the best in Wild Rift. Only one team can take the winning crown in the end. And it's going to be such an exciting final over the next few games. And it is a best of three, so that does mean that the first game is going to be so important for momentum going into the next one.
But we all know, Stu, as pro Brits, that we are the best in Wild Rift. Even though there's not many of us, we are still the best.
I'll take the small crown. I'll take the
yeah.
the small second place one, or maybe in this instance UK might be in like 10th place or something. But hey, as long as there's a winning prize, I'll take top 10.
That's it. Yeah, I'll take custard creams at this rate. But yeah, into the game one of the grand finals between Team France and Spain here. And there seems to be a little bit of pain going on in that mid lane from the Syndra. But like we said in the draft, trying to navigate this early game against the Syndra with the Camille is going to be a tricky one, because all you really have is that range of her ability there, is that leg sweep. So you've got to time those well. Make sure you're not going to get ganked by overextending, which Camille is currently doing here. Whilst the Lee Sin is very close to that blue buff, and again we're just getting that classic Baron lane slap and tap gameplay as we all love and despise.
Man, the timing of Wexer every single time, the poke coming down on Ezem as well. Level advantage at the moment in the bot lane. You can see that Syndra is not really doing too much damage. I'm really surprised that Syndra actually didn't take first strike in this game. I think this was a perfect first strike game for Syndra, because you have that range versus melee matchup. You can just use your abilities in the early game and just keep on stacking gold in the early game. And that little bit of extra gold can help you get towards your items that little bit sooner. Electrocute is still a really good rune to take, but most of the time you are going to be the one that is the first instance of damage. You are going to be poking out in that early game and being able to proc first strike. In the end, just going for a safer option with Electrocute, just maybe get a little bit more burst damage in this early game to try and win the lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing its job as of yet, because we've seen no sort of like a clear dominance in that mid lane, but nice pull in there from Hestes onto Wexic there. We saw that Draco had to recall to try and get some items, get that health. He does go for the Gluttonous Greaves as well, so we could potentially see the likes of the Bloodthirster being built first item on the Zeri as always. But it is a 2v1 here brewing up in that mid lane. Viego now coming to try and even out those odds, which he has done successfully there. There is no sort of clash happening or kill takedown right now in that mid lane, so both of these teams playing very careful, as like you said, and we've alluded to many times throughout the draft and currently in the cast, that there's so much here to play for. Not only the prize pool, but coming back next week to play in the showdown.
Exactly that. The teams are not taking much risk in this early game. Just Lee Sin walking into the mid lane just to get that pushing lane underneath the tower, making sure that the Syndra can go back to base or just have priority in that lane. But there's the engage. There's the playmaking from Heste that we all know and love. You know, it was just a matter of time before Heste was going to make his move. And every time he makes his move, he makes it look perfect.
The thing is, though, I mean, I have to give props to Wex. Like, he did try and like land the second and first skill combo there with the Ore. And he tried to time it pretty well, but it kind of just faded away, unfortunately, just like the Kaiser being completely faded there by the Camille. But there's that timed knockup from Wexic again. He failed at it once. If you fail first time, you will try again and hopefully succeed the second time, and that's exactly what happened down in the bot lane. They do pick up 2 kills instead of the 1 over on the side of 4JV, so well played by Cordoba there.
Yeah, really nice return gank there for for Blaster and also Jemmy in the end, really making it worth their while. That first blood really smart there by Heste, but since the ultimate was used by Kaiser and also the flash by Heste, it did mean that they were at a little bit of a disadvantage in that bot side, overextending a little bit too far, unfortunately, not being able to get the advantage that they really wanted in this early game. And that means it is a 2-for-1 trade. So that means they have a little bit of a goal lead at the moment on the side of Cordoba, and that means that they're going to have first priority here towards this Rift Herald. But it doesn't look like they want to give this Rift Herald up for free. You can see how much of a nuisance this Ornn is when it comes to these small skirmishes. The teams are pretty split at the moment. Both teams just trying to get that mid lane priority. There's a little bit of damage, poke damage coming down here from the Syndra, but nothing really too much in terms of an engage. So for now, the jungler is just going to go back and start farming away Baloo's here just to try and get a little bit more gold. And that does mean it gives the opportunity for Jemmy to maybe go back towards this Rift Herald. It is going to take some time though, and such a big team fight is about to happen.
Yeah, it's going to take time, but is it time that they have here? Kaiser getting locked in with the Hextech ultimatum, but Jack's taking a lot of flack from the Kaiser. The Lycanthia rain coming down from Kaiser, doing a lot of damage onto the Jax, and we're already seeing a lot of Cordoba being deleted here. It's a 3-1 trade over 2 for JV as they just struggle to take that first kill in the game, but now they've clapped back with that 3-1 trade, and there is no jungler to contest the smite of this Rift Herald. So overall, that is a great victory for 4JV. So Team France dominating, because we thought that time was needed for Cordoba to just try and flourish, to set themselves up there, but it was 4JV weren't giving themselves the room to breathe. They have the aggressive team comp. That's all it took, was just taking that first step and just believing, and that's what they did.
Yeah, really nice there. You saw the both Blaster and Jemmy, both the Camille and the Viego trying to dive onto the Kai'Sa, but you just can't take down the Kai'Sa with so much survivability with the ultimate. But now it's all going to come down to a smite fight. Oh my god, that's so clever from Heste. The flash, the ultimate to knock away the Camille. Oh, the 4-man Lee Sin kick from Baloo's, and it's lights out for Spain in this fight as well. Team France have come to play in this game as they even using the ultimate to go in there. Has to force out the flash in the end as well from Wexit. But what an incredible play again from Heste, using his ultimate to knock away the Camille so she couldn't get into a smite range. And then the kick from Baloo's as well, hitting 4 members of Cordoba. And that means that France are now in such a strong lead. They are going to get 1 kill back, but both objectives now for Team France means they have a huge advantage in this early game.
Yeah, but we saw that phenomenal 4-man kick there from Baloo's, but is he going to get another kick on the board? He's on a cooldown there with the ultimate. Are they going to pick up the Camille death there? But manage to take the mid lane turret from 4JV is kind of the tactic here that we can kind of see the Cordoba are going for. They may lose the fights, but if they can bring the macro, it's still not happening, because we see that Hestes was in the mid lane. Sorry, Viegos took the soul from Hestes, sorry. Triggering me and just making me think that the set was still alive, but again, we thought that mid lane turret was going to go down. We thought it was going to be a clean trade for Camille's life for that first tier turret in the mid lane. Could have been huge for Cordoba, but unfortunately, they didn't get the mid lane turret, and Camille fell as well. So no victories there at all, other than trying to get some of those the gold plates from the turrets.
They were able to get the top lane in the end, so it is a 2-for-1 in terms of towers at the moment. The mid lane tower did get taken first here for J1V, just before that dragon got taken before. Then the traded towers, and as you mentioned, you would have hoped that the trading life in the bot lane would have maybe hoped to try and get a tower in the mid lane, but already we're seeing objective bounties here for Cordoba. And that means that they are so far behind already. You can see the gold lead right now. It's about 4,000 gold. They somehow still have objective bounties, but now the Jax is in deep trouble. The set comes in with the ultimate. They're going to try and escape. And Heste actually forcing the flash in the end. Kai'Sa tanks the tower, though. There's enough damage in the end. And that is another kill over to 4JV, and that means that they can take this top tier 2 tower. The bot lane tower is going to go down, but that's only the tier 1 tower. That's an excellent trade again in the end for Team France.
Yeah, picking up that second tier turret now gives exposure to the inhibitor up in the Baron lane. They managed to get a little bit of that bonus gold on the side of Cordoba by taking the Dragon lane first tier turret, but again, that's only their second turret on the board. They could make it a third here, but Baloo's, Isma, and everybody basically was rocking around by Team France there, just down the mid lane. They don't keep the turrets alive, but what they do get in favor of that is that Zeri pickup as well. So again, a big bit of the damage coming from Cordoba has been shut down here. Renekton and Lee Sin going in onto the Jax, but Jax is actually sustaining a lot of damage there with the counter-strike, negating a lot of that damage coming through from both of those heavy bruises in this 10-minute match so far. But it definitely seems to be going in the way and favor of 4JV currently, because they have the wave clear, they have the lane priorities, and they have the kill lead and the gold lead as well. So there's a lot going well here for Team France.
Yeah, they got 2 items now for the Kai'Sa. They're still waiting for that second item for Syndra, which again would be such a big spike for them. 2 items on Lee Sin and 2 items for Renekton. They are hitting their spikes this game, and I think it's going to be pretty difficult now. The Dragon is going to be spawning in the next 10 seconds, and this is such a big team fight for Cordoba. You really feel like they need to try and take this Dragon, but the junglers on the opposite side of the map, they might not even be looking to try and take this Dragon. Instead, they're just going to try and look to steal away some jungle camps. But hey, a blue buff for a Dragon? Lee Sin's just like, yeah, yoink, I'll take the Dragon, don't mind me. That's one away from Dragon Soul. And it also could be the Ice Dragon Soul again this game as well, which is big. But they do get a catch, though, onto Renekton. That is a shutdown onto Draco. So a little bit of extra gold there for Draco. And that does mean that Zeri does now have a little bit of a gold lead over this Kai'Sa. But the rest of the map at the moment is looking pretty glim for Cordoba. But maybe they just have to rely on the Zeri to be the carry this game.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the damage, I mean, again, the Viego pick is seeming like a non-starter. We was really hoping for some great playmaking potential on that champion, but today we've not really seen anything come through, especially with Jemmy picking up the Viego. We definitely preferred him on the Lee Sin pick in the last series, but again, we just want to see this Viego shine, even though he is of the Shadow Isles. We do want to see him shine, and we want to see a lot of playmaking potential come through when this champion gets picked up. But so far, again, as I said before, it's a non-starter. But I can still believe, I can still hope that Cordoba could come back. We can see the Viego activate online, but Hestes has been a true shutdown of this Viego in the early team fights.
Yeah, Heste has been the playmaker. I mean, this was the moment, you know, this was what it was talking about these two teams. This bot lane is going to be the win or lose for both of these two teams. Draco, really nice dash away there to get away. And a little bit of a misplay there from Heste. And it's very rare in the end, but a flash coming out through the Ornn meant that the counter engage comes in here. And this is huge for the team of Spain to try and dash back in. The flash counter strike onto the back line as well. And this is a big team fight, a big turnaround. And that means that the Baron buff is now up. But what a huge play there from the Ornn to get away from Heste and be able to counter engage as well. And Draco was completely untouched in that whole fight.
Yep, what a turnaround that was. They managed to pick up the Baron Nashor as well, so they could try and go Scorched Earth onto Team France here by actually picking up a few more of these second-tier turrets, even though they only have one for themselves onto Cordoba. But yeah, again, the Baron Nashor is definitely going to improve these next minute and 20 seconds for Cordoba, or we could only hope, because that fantastic team fight there in the mid lane, only leaving the Kai'Sa and the Lee Sin, alive was a pretty great feat there, considering where they were coming from and what their standing in the match was prior to that moment, because now they have a little gold lead ahead of Team France here. So what was once flourishing on the side of 4JV is now being slowly transitioned over to the side of Team Spain, and there could be some pain going on here in both of these lanes. We have a 1v1 up in the Baron lane. We see that Jax manages to take down the second tier turret, but it is a trade over for Wex6 life, which could be detrimental going into this next team fight, because we know that Ornn is a great champion that's soaking all that damage before the likes of the Zeri, the Viego, and like Jackson, Camille can get in there, get a little bit sticky, and take out a few of those lower health champions, and knowing that they don't have as many skills on off cooldown. So I think it was right for Cordoba to go for the recall there.
Really interesting. Basically nothing taken here for Cordoba in terms of the Baron. They were only able to take one tier 2 tower in that bot lane. I think that just shows how close this game has been. It's been so back and forth, but you can tell just one little misplay here from the likes of Heste or just anyone overstepping, it can be lights out, and Cordoba still have a lot of burst damage in their roster to be able to turn this game around, because it was France that were ahead in this game, but Spain have tried to turn it around, and they've done so well so far. The TP has been bought by Renekton. The TP is going to be coming in, and it's actually a flank as well, all the way onto the back line. Actually, baiting a few abilities out there for Team Spain, and that does mean that they have the priority now. We're looking at Heste, we're looking at the Engage. The Engage comes in, but it's not very good. It's only on one member. Draco again completely untouched onto the back line, and again it's one kill over to Draco, and they just don't have the damage to break through this front line. Unfortunately, the damage from Team France there were just not enough, and Heste wasn't able to make the play that he wanted to. He tried to jump into the back line, he wasn't able to find it, and Zeri is doing a lot of work right now. Draco has to be the main focus now for 4J1V, sorry, to be able to try and shut them down.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate shutdown there was the acquisition of the Dragon Soul, because now the Team France can't pick up the Ice Dragon Soul. I think that's going to be a big upset for the side of Team France, because they aren't going to get the Ice Dragon Soul. They're not going to get the benefits that come along with that as well. And Team Spain can rest easily knowing that they're not going to get that Dragon Soul either. But the next thing that is up is going to be that Elder Dragon. And again, that is going to be a sought for objective. But I feel like, as you say, if Draco can keep himself untouched with these early parts of the team fights, I feel like we could see that the Zeri has everything in her kit to able to just be that one true carry on the side of Cordoba. And I think it's only time will tell here if they can manage to pull that off again, if Hestes is going to stop making those mistakes of trying to slam dunk the Ornn out of the way, because Ornn's just going to be able to soak that Showmaker anyway. It just doesn't matter what you're going to do or what ult you use onto the Ornn. Ornn is there to soak it all up.
And you can see how passive Draco is playing. You can see how far back he's playing in these fights. He does not want to get caught out. If anyone like Heste or Equa or even Beluz gets onto the Zeri, then the Zeri is just going to die so quickly. So Draco just needs to play super passive and wait for that initial engage. And actually, the initial engage is coming in onto the Ornn in the end, which is very interesting. But they caught out the Zeri. They're doing a little bit of damage to Draco, and Draco is super low on health, but he stays alive into the backline. He's doing the damage. He's got the sustain as well. Azim is still alive as well, though the Kaiser is still alive at the same time. And it's a 280 carries, but it's Azim that comes out on top. It's Team France that comes out on top at full ace. And that's all it took. One team fight. They're flanked from Heste. The flank from Beluz onto the backline, taking down the Zeri, taking down the backline carry was the difference in the end. Azim with the execution as well, with the Kaiser ultimate, and that's going to be game number 1 here for Team France. What an insane game.
Absolutely insane. But like we said, the Draco method was only going to be useful for so many times, because the player's skill on the side of 4JV knows that if these things only work a few times, they're just going to basically play around that. They're going to make sure that they can make sure that you don't exploit the Zeri anymore, because they will punish you for it, and they did in that last team fight. We saw Hestes go for the Zeri, albeit the Zeri actually was able to sustain a lot of the damage and be one of the last remaining